You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of this shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Deku Meets DC Superhero Girls. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Pixel's Fanbook on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. The group of teens were leaving the amusement park, having filled their night with fun and games and prizes. They wanted to end the night on a good note and their resident magician just saw how to satisfy that need. Ladies and gentlemen, after a night like tonight, there's only one thing that can cement this friendship. Z said with an almost somber tone. Frosting, Z sang in a grand motion towards a store in front of them. Sweet justice. Karen, Z and Jessica yelled as they ran to the vintage-style shop. Leaving Izuku, Diana and Barbara who looked at each other and shrugged as they had no idea why the others were excited for a shop. Come on, you three do not want to miss this. Kara said as she came back and pulled the trio of newcomers with her into the shop. The group of 7 enter the store and Izuku could have sworn that he got a toothache just from seeing how much cakes, cupcakes, ice cream sundaes and milkshakes were being served in the store. Barbara went to the front counter and pressed her face against the glass case with glorious desert items in it. How did I not know about this place? Barbara asked while her eyes were filled with stars. She stopped staring at the sweet confections when a boy appeared with the other side. He had spiky golden blonde hair and cerulean eyes. He wore a light pink hat and a shirt with the sleeves rolled up and had a pink apron on with a darker pink bow tie over it. He also wears blue-gray pants and shoes. He had a kind smile that remained Izuku for his upperclassman, Mirio Togata, back at UA. Hey guys. So, what's the haps? What's popping? What's the latest? Can I get you something sweet? I sure hope so, 'cause that's what we have. Sort of our specialty. The boy said with his voice going a mile per second. Either having too much sweet in his system or something else. Hi Berry. The group, sans Izuku, Barbara and Diana greeted the hyperactive blonde boy who is now to be revealed as Berry. So, what will it be? Usual. Oh, you guys are new here. Berry started saying to the other girls before he stopped at the trio of newcomers as he now noticed them. Hi. Izuku greeted Berry with a wave. So, what will you guys have? Berry asked as he pulled out a notepad from his apron. Izuku, Barbara and Diana looked at the menu and saw a variety of items that they severed. They couldn't choose what they wanted, so Z decided for them. Babs will have the candy cake triple ripple tower with the rainbow sprinkles, Diana will have the death by chocolate. Z said before Diana pulled out a mace, but Zatana pressed away. Figure of speech Diana. And for Izuku, he'll have the cinnamon roll ice surprise. Z said as Berry wrote the orders down. Got it. Berry said as he ran to the back, and a few seconds later, he returned with the orders. Here you go. Berry said, handing the orders to the group. Thanks Berry. The group said as they took their orders and went to go and find space of them. Leaving Izuku, Barbara and Diana. It's nice to meet you Izuku, Babs and Diana. Berry said to the trio. Nice to meet you too Berry-san. Izuku. Hi there. Babs greeted Berry before taking her order and went. It is nice to meet your acquaintance. I shall await your text message in 3 days' time. Diana said, completely misreading the situation with Berry scratching his head. What? Berry said, confused at what Diana said. Izuku started to pull her from the counter. Don't mind her. She's still adjusting here. Izuku said as he pulled Diana. The group now sat in a booth and were eating their desserts with only Diana looking a bit unsure. It's just chocolate, Diana. There's nothing to worry about. Izuku said as he took a bite of one of the cinnamon roll which the girls minus Diana had one thought. Cannibalism. The girls thought as they watched one cinnamon roll eat another. Diana looked around and saw everyone was eating their sweets and she turned to hers before mustering up the strength to take a spoonful and lick it. She gasps with her eyes going wide as she begun to hallucinate about more confections before dropping her spoon and faceplants into her treat and begun to devouring it and finishing it within seconds. Never have I tasted such wonderment. More, I must have more of this magical concoction. Diana yelled in near hysterics before her eyes turned to Karen, more specifically her milkshake. Don't intend to eat that? Diana asked as she slams her hands in front of a now frightened Karen. Well Karen tried to say something but couldn't due to either her timid nature or her fear of Diana's current state. But the Amazonian princess didn't wait of her answer as she took the milkshake and drank it in one gulp. Seeing now that Diana wasn't going to stop there, Jessica pushed her treat towards the sugar-high warrior, who took it and processed to scarfing it down and went on to the rest's treats while everyone else in the booth watched on either in disgust at the display that was happening in front of them or didn't know what to do. After finishing Izuku's ice cream surprise, Diana blanked and passed out face first onto the bowl where Izuku's treat once was in. A bit worried if her friend may have just died from her sugar overfull, Karen tipped onto Diana's shoulder. Diana, are you okay? Karen asked, but instead of a straight answer, Diana shot back up to her feet, startling both Izuku and Karen. Sisters and Zeus's champion. This food is more delectable than ambrosia. This place, more perfect than Elysium. I declare that we must celebrate our every future victory here and thus. Diana said as she slams the bowl down onto the table. Izuku was wondering if she was still on her sugar high or that this is how she acting normally when she's excited. Loving the proposal, Barbara stood up with her arms raised in the air. Sweet justice of the win. The red-haired cheered. I do not know what that means. Diana mimicked Barbara's action, still on her sugar high, and was happy that she discovered this place. Hey, what are you doing? We turned down the offer. A voice said which caught the group's attention. They turned to the source of the voice and saw the customers and the owners of the store were standing at the front where a large number of robots that resembled trash cans with caterpillar treads were standing in front of the store. Get out of here. Please. The male owner asked. We said we wouldn't sell. The female owner said to the robots, most likely the wife and co-owner of the store. Barry. The woman called out with Barry appearing behind the counter. Go call our lawyer. The woman asked as Barry saluted and went to the back to call the lawyer. Jessica saw this and got confused, and she wasn't the only one. Lawyer? Why would they need a lawyer? Jessica asked to the others with them shrugging their shoulders. Attention citizens. This establishment has been deemed for immediate destruction. One of the robots said as they now entered the store. No, the male co-owner yelled, shocked that their store was about to be destroyed. You can't do this. This store is everything to us. The wife co-owner shouted. By the order of the city of Metropolis, you must evacuate the building before total demolition commences. You have 30 seconds to comply. 30. The robot begun its countdown with everyone running out the store. What should we do? Kara asked, she wasn't like where this was going. What can we do? Those are the city's robots. Z said. You have 15 seconds to comply. The robot said with the countdown continuing. The group went in front of the owners to protect them for what was about to coming. Please, you guys should go. Nothing we say will make them stop. The But, the city can't take this place down with the owner's permission. Isn't that the law? Izuku asked. This didn't make sense to him at all. You have 10 seconds to comply. 10. The robot said. Is this a law we must obey? Or should we fight? Diana asked, confused on what to do. Please. This isn't worth getting hurt over. Just get out of here while you still can. The robot finished his countdown before anyone could say anything else. This completes your warning. Demolition will now commence. The robot said as it then took out its tools of destruction with the rest of its kind following. They began the destruction with busting through the walls of the store, cutting the tables with buzz saws, smashing the counter and mowing the floor with spiked treads. One robot was mowing the floor and was heading straight towards a citizen who was not paying any attention to what was going on due to him wearing the green VR googles we saw earlier. Johnny! Look out! One of the customers that left the store shouted through the window as Diana headed him and saw what was going on. The robot was about to hit Johnny when Diana intercepted the robot with a kick. The rest of the group saw this and looked on to Diana as she now had her amour on. It matters not if these villains are protected by man's law. Our mission is to protect the innocent and that is what we must do. Come sisters and Zeus's champion, this is our time. Diana finished delivering her attention was diverted towards the female co-owner's scream. Diana turned and saw a robot was barreling towards the owners and was about to crush them when Kara in her hero outfit picked up the robot and allowed the owners to flee out the store. She then processed to drop the robot. You're right. This is our time. Kara said as she cracked her knuckles. Diana and Kara then saw 3 more were coming towards them and got ready to fight them. However, one of them shrunk into a small toy-sized one was caught with a rope and pulled back, causing it to break apart and the last one was shot with an air blast that went through its chest and caused it to explode. The 2 turned to see everyone was in their hero outfits as Diana smiled at this. Haza. Let us earn more chocolate. Diana said as she punches and kicks some robots which smashed them into pieces. Barbara swung around with her grappling hook and drop kicks one robot in the head. Kara and Izuku punched one robot together in a combined movement which sent it back into the rest of the robots. Karen flew around and punched one robot with her tiny fists, but it didn't do anything against the demolition robot. Eep! Karen squeaked, realizing that her attack did nothing to the robot like she thought it would and flew away with the robot chasing her. Ecum site tober ria passid. Zatana chanted her spell and fired it to one of the robots and caused it to disappear, leaving behind a dust of glitter. Thank you, thank you. Nothing gets past the great Zatana. Z said with the hands from before appearing again and giving her a round of applause. She was so busy taking in the applause that one robot sneaked past her and was before to cut 2 more people with those green VR googles on with its buzz saws. Great hero. Why do they not run? Diana asked. She turned to Kara who was still fighting. Quickly, Supergirl must dash, Diana was saying but Kara interrupted her as she flew past the Amazonian. I got it. Kara said as she flew to the robot. No wait. Diana said, trying to tell Kara what she wanted to say but Kara wasn't listening to her. I said, I got it, dot. Kara said as she took the robot's buzzsaw and swung it around but the buzzsaw came off. She was happy that she saved the 2 citizens but she saw that the direction the robot was going to was heading towards more civilians. Izuku saw this and jumped towards the robot and delivered a smash to it and kicked it away the civilians. Jessica was busy holding a bunch of robots in a cage made from her ring before she saw a group of robots were still smashing the place. She turned to Karen for help. Bumblebee. Try short-circuiting them. Jess asked Karen but the small hero looked on and saw one robot was coming towards her. Her fears were getting to her. I can't. I don't want to. I can't. Karen said before flying away from the robot. Barbara was on top of one robot and was rapidly punching its head before falling off it. She got up and saw that more robots were heading toward civilians with the VR set on them and were about to cut them. Barbara took out her batarangs to try and stop the robots when a piece of rock hit her head, which made her think that something was behind her and made her turn around and throw multiple batarangs, which hit nothing. Focus, Batgirl, oh, for the love of Hades. I shall do it myself. Diana said as she lets go for the robot she was holding with her lasso and jumped in front of the robot and took it by its buzz saw attachments. She then ripped the buzz saws off the robot and kicked it away. She spun the buzz saws and then used them as weapons to cut through a few robots and then punched one through its chest. Take this hideous beast. Diana heard Zatana shouted and saw her shoot a few robots with her magic before she shot the one Diana had just punched and hit her instead, causing the princess to hit Kara and Izuku and hit them into a wall. I'm sorry. I didn't mean you. Zatana said, sorry for shooting her friends. The three got up and felt shaking in the building. They looked up and saw the ceiling was having cracks on it with some of it falling down. The building's coming down. Everyone out. Jessica yelled before using her ring to make and everyone ran out with dust filling the area. They coughed from the dust and got up as it started to clear up, but it revealed to them the now destroyed Sweet Justice. Izuku lost all color as he fell to his knees in shock at seeing the destruction of the store. Even after all the effort into stopping the robots from destroying the building, they still won. Diana on her part, felt like she failed in her mission. At least no one got hurt. Then, a large portion of mist rounded behind as they turned around and saw a squadron of tall, muscular, fully armored women with swords, shields and spears in their hands. The young heroes saw that the women were wearing similar armor like Diana was wearing, and they had more muscles and were more refined beauty in age. Diana. A voice inside the mist and behind the women said. Oh no. Diana said, fear betraying in her eyes. The warriors parted, allowing the owner of the voice to come out. You are in a lot of trouble, young lady. She said with a. Everyone, meet, the Queen of Themyscira. Hippolyta, my mother. Diana admitted sadly, much to the shock of the rest as they looked at the now revealed queen. Dude, your mom looks like a final boss. Barbara said, fear fooling her begin while watch. This woman who was towering over her and the rest. Why is she here and why is she angry? Karen asked, hiding behind Kara in fear of Diana's mother. I have come to retrieve my runaway daughter who disguised herself as a warrior to enter the tournament of Athena and Aphrodite and against the wishes of your queen and. Hippolyta said as Diana with the others looking shocked at. But I thought you said it was your destiny to save the world of man. Kara asked, confused. This insolent child has no such destiny. She has brought shame upon her people for leaving Themyscira without my permission. Wait, you snuck out? Izuku asked, shocked at this than the others. Yes, and she will not be doing this again for she is grounded for the rest of her immortal life. Hippolyta said before grabbing Diana by her ear. Come Diana so you may receive your punishment. Hippolyta said while pulling Diana who said say, ow, ow, ow. The entire time. Feeling that this wasn't right, Izuku stepped forward even though Kara and Barbara were signaling him to come back to them. Wait. Izuku called out, causing Hippolyta to stop and turn to him. What is it you want, masked rabbit woman? Hippolyta asked, still holding Diana's ear. Izuku was scared at how the taller woman was looking at him. He knew if one wrong word came out of his mouth and he was going to be in a world of pain. But the look on Diana's face made his courage to come back. He was too familiar to how people were telling him what he couldn't do. First off. Izuku said as he took off his mask and respirator, showing his face to them. I am a man. And secondly, didn't Diana pass the trails of Athena and Aphrodite? The revelation of Izuku's true gender shocked the queen and the other Amazonians, but his question stuck out to the queen. Yes, she did pass them without no trick nor cheat, but she still entered the tournament against my wishes for her not to. Hippolyta said. But doesn't that tell you that she was meant to be here? She passed them and survived. Izuku said, standing his ground much to the surprise of the Amazonians. Yes, she disobeyed you, but she does have the right to make her own decisions. Even if you disagree with them. But she is still too young, for she is only 317 years old. Hippolyta yelled, her voice was faltering from the logic Izuku's words had. That's 300 more years than most teenagers when they start to make their own choices, but the part of life. We have to learn from them to grow into better versions of ourselves. You may not think she's destined for something, but I know if she stays, she could make a big difference. Izuku said before he turns to Diana. Someone once told me that I have something in common with most of the great heroes had in the past. Then my body reacted and moved to save someone before I could think. I risked my life to save another one, and that person told me that I can be a hero. Diana told me that I have what's need to a hero too, and not just to me. Izuku said as he turned back to his friends. But to them as well. She told Kara that she could be one of the greatest hero the world of man has ever seen. She told to Karen that she has more strength than she even realizes. She told Jessica that her belief towards non-violence was admirable. She told Zatana that she could use her gifts for a great cause. A cause of justice, and she told Barbara that even though she was not more focused than the rest, her mind was one of the sharpest she's even seen. Izuku said before he faced Hippolyta again. So yes, she may be a bit naive on most things, but again most of us are. That's life, we learn from those decisions we make. We learn to be better. I may save the day, but I feel that she could save the world someday, and I'll be there to help her. She's not just a girl, or a princess. She's a Wonder Woman. Izuku finished with a bright smile, which was bringing a smile on Diana's face, as well a few tears. Behind him, Barbara, Karen, Zatana and Jessica had tears in their eyes, while Kara was trying to keep a straight face, which was failing as a tear was in her eye as well. That was appealing. Jessica whispered while wiping her tears away. Yeah. Barbara agreed. Feeling empowered by Izuku's words, Diana steadied her footing before she straightens her posture and faced her mother. Mother, he is right. I am old enough to make my own decisions, and I have proven myself to remain here. If you cannot accept that, then it is unfortunate. Diana said firmly, finally standing up to her mother, which earned her a gasp from her. Queen Hippolyta couldn't believe that her daughter had actually. She turned to Izuku and had a snarl on her face with rage filling her eyes. You did this. I should have known would turn my daughter against her mother and people. Hippolyta yelled while pointing to Izuku. Wait. Can we talk about this? Izuku asked, fear for an angry mother who could kill him if she wanted to. Wait, mother. You can trust Izuku, he is a true hero and I fully trust him. Diana said, which caused the other Amazonians to gasp. This has never happened before. And why should I do so? He is just a mere man. Hippolyta said while pointing to Izuku. Izuku felt a bit insulted by what the queen said, but he stayed quiet, fearing that she'd kill him if he said anything to offend her. Because, he is Zeus's chosen champion. Defender of man and the innocent. Diana shouted out, nearly giving Izuku a heart attack. Hippolyta looked at Izuku from his head to his toes, and so were the rest of the Amazonians until the girls went in front of them. This continued to happen until Hippolyta and the Amazonians began to laugh, this of course everyone else off of a moment before the Amazonians began to calm down. Oh, by the gods! I have not laughed like that in many moons. Do you really accept me to believe that the small man who wears a rabbit mask is Zeus's champion? Hippolyta asked after getting her breath back. Mother, if you could just let Izuku show you what he's capable of. Your fears and skepticism shall fade away. Diana said. Hippolyta was going to say something, but an explosion went off at the pier. Everyone went there and saw a large number of the same demolition robots from before with a large robot in the front of them. What is that? Karen asked. That's a LexCorp destruction robot suit. Luther is using it and the robots to wreck things up. Just like it's sweet justice. Barbara said. But why would he do this? Izuku asked. This was not making sense to him as he put on his mask and got ready to fight. Yeah, isn't he like a billionaire or something? Kara asked. Diana. Why do you waste time on this useless babbling? A true Amazon warrior wastes no time and strikes their opponent before her with no fear. Amazons. Attack. Hippolyta yelled as the Amazonians charged and begun attacking the robots. They had an easy time with the robots as they swatted them over the pier and into the sea or smashing them into pieces. The large robot pulled out a cannon from its arm and shot out a large ball of goo at the Amazonians and trapped them in it, including Queen Hippolyta. Mother! You foul fiend! Reveal your face if you are a real man and not a coward. Diana said, drawing her sword and shield out. Come on out, Lex. We know you're in there. So show us what you got. Kara said. Lex? I am not Lex. A voice said as the robot put its hands on its hips and a window opened on the chest of the suit and showed nothing but the cockpit was shown. Oh, hold on. The voice said as a hand shot up and hit a button which made the chair rise and revealed a young girl with blonde hair in a ponytail and peridot eyes. She wore a school wear which consisted of a white polo shirt with a purple vest and a school logo/badge, a plaid skirt, long socks, and black Mary Jane shoes, but the young heroes could only see the top half of her. Like I was saying. I'm Lena Luthor. And all this was all my plan, better than my dork of a brother. He could never think of something this good. The voice now knew as Lena Luthor said. There was silence on the air as Kara said the one thing that was on the minds of the rest. What? Oh, do I have to spell it out to you? Lena yelled to the teens. Yeah. You kind of do. Batgirl replied. *tisk** figures, you teenagers think you're so smart and great with your, let's stay up late or, let's go for a drive in our cars. But you're so dumb, you couldn't even pick up on obvious of evil plots. Even when it's literally in front of your face. So first, I reprogrammed my brother's worthless VR googles to make you teens get stuck to them. Then I hacked the demolition robots that the city hired my dopey brother to make and make them wreck all the cool, dope place you all hang out at. When those are gone, you lame teenagers have nowhere else to go hang out with your friends and you'll be forced to use the VR sets and be trapped in them, forever. And with you out of the way. Children will rule Metropolis. MWA ha 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 ha. Lena said, finishing explaining her plan and started laughing at how brilliant her plan was to her. This plan didn't have a massive impact on the young heroes nor the seasoned Amazon's warriors. That's the dumbest plan I've ever heard. Kara said with a sweat drop on her head. You're the dumbest plan I've ever heard. But it is the dumbest plan ever made. I mean, if your plan does somehow work, how would the city run? Who'd operate fire and emergency services? Who'd keep the electricity running? Who'd even help you guys make food or clean your clothes if your parents are away from you during the day like they have work or errands to do? Izuku asked, pointing out all the many flaws in Lena's plan. That's it. Once I'm finished destroying this pier. You're next. Lena said as the window to the cockpit closed. Never. We won't let you destroy this pier. We will defend this place with everything we got. And we'll do it as a team. Izuku said as he started to call up OFA with the green lighting surging around his body. The girls saw this declaration from their friend and smiled as they got into their fighting stances. Whatever. Lena said before pushing a button on the cockpit and the robots charged forwards with their tools for destruction out. The heroes charged forward and began to destroy the robots. Kara flew to the air and nosedived into a group of robots and crashed into them and caused explosion which took them out of commission. Diana sliced and tackled a few with her blade before jumping into the robots. Yellow batarangs impaled into a robot and caused a spark and stop before Barbara came and kicked it away before she jumped onto another one. Lena shoot a blast towards the heroes but the heroes avoided it and the blast hit the roller coaster and caused it to break down with some of the debris were falling down, right above the trapped Amazonians. Hippolyta and her people braced for the worst and closed their eyes. But it never came. The Amazon Queen opened her eyes and saw something that she never imagined was possible. She saw Izuku was right above them with his green lighting going wild over him as he was in front of the metal debris. Full cowling, shoot style. Smash! Izuku yelled mentally as he kicked the debris away from the Amazonians. That moment didn't stop the Amazonians and Queen Hippolyta from getting more shock as Izuku spun around and kicked a robot by the head and sent it flying towards the mecha suit. Lena saw this and swatted the bot away but that opened an opportunity for Diana to charge forward to her and slice the blasters off the suit. Zatana used her magic to make two robots float in the air and throw them off the pier. She then begun to fly in the air when Bumblebee came to her. Zatana. Look! Karen said while pointing towards a ride. Zatana followed where Karen was pointing to and gasps as she saw robots cutting the metal support beams to a ride and caused it to fall to its side. Jessica flew to it and created two large green hands to help her hold the ride. She watched a few more robots destroy another ride in front of her. This isn't working. Jessica groaned in discomfort to how heavy the ride was. She was about to give out when a green blur shot to her and took her out of being under the ride. Jessica looked up and saw Izuku was carrying her bride style. I got you. Izuku said as he let Jess back onto her feet. Thanks. Jessica thanked Izuku. Eventually, more robots begun to destroy the games and rides on the pier with the heroes continuing to fight them. Barbara took down two more with her batarangs in front of the arcade but it was too late with the building crumbling down. There's too many for them. What do we do? Barbara asked as the heroes regrouped to her. Lena begun to giggle and dance around, seeing her plan was working. I win, I win, I win. Lena said while giggling as she too smashed a few attractions. The heroes huddled up and begun thinking on the situation. We are totally losing you guys. And every teenager in Metropolis is going to pay the price. Zatana said, not liking their odds. It is impossible for 7 warriors to defeat an army. Until we take out the general. Diana said, who now was beginning to realize something. Lena. Jeshia said. Right. She's got to have something that makes the bots follow her orders. But how do we stop it? Kara said. But what could stop her from order the robots? Karen asked as Izuku began to think on it before an idea hit him. Her power source. If we can take out her power source, she can't control the robots. Izuku said. But how? Zatana asked as Barbara started to think on it before she took out her laptop from who knows where. Right, even giant mega war suit gotta have a power source on it. If we can jolt the mecha suit's main firm, we can short it out. Barbara said. But I repeat, but how? Zatana asked with Kara looking around the pier for something that could help them. She saw an electric guitar and an amp on the pier and she saw what brand the amp was. She flew to it and picked it up. I got an amp just like this and it shorts at my house all the time. Just turn it up to 10 and shred. Kara said. But how do we hook it to the motherboard inside the suit? Barbara asked. I'll do it. Karen said with the rest turning to her. Karen, are you sure that you really want to do this? Diana asked, not wanting to risk her friend's safety if she wasn't really up to it. It's too scary, and I don't want to do it. But I have to. Karen said, as her courage was returning. Spoken like a true hero. Izuku said, smiling at the shorter girl's determination, which caused Karen to blush at the praise from Izuku. Great, connect this cable to the CPU on Lena's suit and I'll rewire the amp to go beyond 10. Barbara said with Supergirl floating down to her with her eyes widen. No way. Can you do that to mine? Supergirl asked, she really hoped she could do it for her. Sure, it's easy to do it. Then when you're done, I can plug the other end to the amp and... Barbara began. Bye-bye Lena. Kara said while strumming a chord from the guitar. Alright, Green Lantern. Get Batgirl as close to Lena as you can. Supergirl, Zatana, Deku. You are with me. Now, let us do this. Diana said as the heroes lined up together in front of Lena and her army. Go! Diana yelled with the team charging forward to the robo-army. HAREM. Zatana said, appearing in front of Lena as the girl turned to her. Lena went to punch her but Zatana disappeared from the hit. Lena looked around and saw Zatana reappeared again and tried to hit her but again the magicine disappeared. Zatana appeared again and Lena went to hit her but Zatana disappeared when Lena tried to hit her. What Lena didn't know was Zatana was sitting on the suit's head and was watching too as the Zatana was actually a mirage to distract her. Bumblebee flew towards the outport of the suit while Lena was distracted by the Zatana mirages. Lena was then caught by Diana's lasso with her and Izuku holding it and by Kara who flew and took her left arm and bent it behind her. Karen used this moment to fly inside the suit with the cable. Jessica made a bumper cart with her ring and Barbara jumped into it with the amp and guitar in hand. Jessica then made controller and used to navigate Barbara through the army of robots towards the mecha as Batgirl was busy rewiring the amp. Meanwhile, Bumblebee was navigating herself through the mecha suit in search of the motherboard. She flew past some circuits before seeing the motherboard. She flew to it and plugged the plug into it and she calls Batgirl on the situation. Okay, I'm in. Is the amp ready? Karen asked while Batgirl took out a red marker and drew a 11 on the amp. Oh yeah. Batgirl said as she finished her wiring and looked onto the mecha to see Diana was tying it with her lasso, with the others either flying or bouncing around Lena. Batgirl smirked when she saw the wire hanging outside of the suit. She pulls out her grappling hook and shoots it onto the suit and pulls herself to the suit. She then grabs hold to the plug but in doing so, took it out of the motherboard. Karen saw the plug was unhooked and quickly grabbed it before it went out and began to try and pull it back to the port. Outside, Batgirl hooked the wire to the amp and turned the noob to the new 11 setting but Lena wasn't going to give up that easily. Get off, get off, get off. Lena yelled in frustration as she started to press every button on her cockpit and it worked as she knocked Diana, Zatana, Izuku and Jessica away from her. Say goodbye to your pure suckers. Lena said before pushing another button which made her ignite rockets from her feet and sent her flying in the air. Izuku quickly got back to his feet and jumped onto the suit before it got too high as Batgirl and him hanged onto it for dear life. It's now or never. Supergirl. Do it. Izuku yelled as Kara flew up towards them. Yeah. Batgirl said as she threw the guitar through the air and Supergirl caught it. Alright little girl, time for a lullaby. Kara said as she took out a pick and let a massive riff hit off the guitar which made the amp short out and send the current through the suit. Karen continued to pull the plug back to the outlet but she couldn't due to Batgirl holding the amp. She turned and saw the electric current was coming and she looked back to the outlet and knew that she had no choice. She put her hand into the outlet while the other one was holding the plug and waited for current to come. The current came and went through Karen and to the outlet, shorting the motherboard and the suit altogether before the shock blew her out of the suit. Back in the pilot's seat, Lena looked around as electricity was shorting out her systems before it caused the suit to blast off higher in the air. No. You cheated, you cheated, you cheated. Lena screamed like a spoiled child throwing a tantrum before she realized that the suit had no power and started to fall down. Ah oh. she said before ejecting out of the suit. Supergirl. Grab Batgirl and take her to safety. Izuku said. What are you going to do? Kara asked as Izuku looked down and saw the remaining number of robots were below them. He looked to Kara and smiled at her. I'm gonna go beyond. Go, get out of here. Izuku said as Kara took Barbara and flew away from the mecha. Izuku readied himself with OFA surging throughout his body. It's time to go beyond. He said as he jumped high in the air and started spinning in the air in a backflip motion. He stopped spinning with his right leg stuck out as he dove towards the suit. Plus Ultra. Izuku yelled as he kicked the suit square on its chest, sending barreling faster towards the ground and crashing into the remaining robots, causing a large explosion on the pier. The power to the last of the robots was cut off and the teenagers around Metropolis who wore the VR headset were freed from Lena's trap. Back at the pier, the heroes surrounded the remains of the mecha suit and were worried about their two teammates. Bumblebee got out, right? Batgirl asked the others. And where's Deku? Diana asked before something behind them crashed into the ground. They turned and saw Karen flying towards the smoking crater ere the thing crashed and grew back to her original size to see electricity was still. Bumblebee. Batgirl yelled as she and the rest ran to their friend. Are you okay? Z asked as Karen sat up and took off her helmet which revealed a bright new yellow highlight that had electricity surge off it when she took off the helmet. Did we do it? Karen asked. Yeah, we did it, but where's Izuku? Jeshia asked as the rest looked around of their male friend when. A pained voice was heard in the crater and the girls looked down in it to see Izuku was lying in it with his right knee pad torn due to the force of his kick had on his leg. Deku, the girls yelled as they jumped into the crater and went to Izuku and began to check on him. Are you alright Izuku? Diana asked as she picked Izuku up. Why yeah, legs broken for sure and my body is aching from that suit but, I'm fine. Izuku said before looking at Karen and seeing her new highlight. Hey, I like your new hairstyle Karen, really suits you. Izuku said. Thanks. Karen said as she blushed and tried to hide her face. Me too, what's your secret? Z complimented. Courage. Diana couldn't help but be a bit corny as she hugged the shorter girl. Soon, the girls took Izuku out of the crater and made their way to the trapped Amazons and Kara, Jessica and Diana then punched the hardened glob and set the Amazonians free. One by one, the warriors got back to their feet. Mother, are you okay? Diana asked, worried that her mother was injured. Hippolyta just turned to Diana and looked at her in the eyes. Do not worry my daughter, I am all right. But I am relieved that you are all right. Hippolyta said, feeling proud of her daughter had faced the enemy and defeated the mechanical beast. Taking a deep breath, she prepared to say what she needed to say next. Diana, I was wrong about you. This day, you showed the wisdom of Athena and shown that you have the true spirit of an Amazon warrior. You've proven that you are a Wonder Woman. Hippolyta said as she had a gentle smile on her face, one Diana hasn't seen in a long time. Thank you mother. Diana said, feeling happy that her mother was letting her stay. Hippolyta then turned and saw Izuku was getting his leg healed by Zatana. She went to him and catching Izuku's attention. Man. What is your name? Hippolyta asked looked on with a stern expression. Izukumidoriya. Izuku quickly replied, fearing that the Queen of was going to do something painfully to him. What he didn't expect was her bowing to him. Izukumidoriya, chosen champion of Zeus. I was wrong about you. You have proven yourself worthy of mantle. I thank you for protecting me and my people during the battle. You have my debit. Hippolyta said as she looked up and gave him a small calm smile. It was nothing ma'am. Izuku said with a blush under his mask. I do request one favor from you. Hippolyta said. What is it? Izuku asked. Protect my Diana. She is my everything. Hippolyta said as Izuku looked at her. I will, your majesty. Izuku said. Thank you. Hippolyta said as she turned to the Amazons. Amazons. We leave now. Hippolyta commanded. The Amazons all went to their sailboats to leave Metropolis and return home. Before she went with them, Hippolyta pulled Diana to the side to say to her on a private matter. Diana, I know your knowledge in the world of man or men is little. But I can see you have an interest in Zeus's champion. Hippolyta said in Diana's ear, making her blush. Mother. What? He looks like a fine mate for you. A bit scrawny and fidgety, but considerate, my daughter. Hippolyta said as she then left with the rest of her people, leaving her embarrassed daughter. A short time after, the police arrived and called Lena's parents, who arrived with Lex Luthor and took her away with the promise on punishing her of her actions. Lex said that he'd donate money to help the reconstruction of the buildings Lena had destroyed, including Sweet Justice. However, before leaving, Lex looked at the young heroes with narrow eyes and walked away. A crowd formed and saw the team and begun cheering for them. The teens couldn't help but feel proud of what they achieved today. Later. At Izuku's house. Izuku and the team stood in the front of his new house as he unlocked it and opened the door and went in with the others, following him into his living room to rest after the day's events. He processed a faceplant onto the couch, not bothering to take his mask and metal respirator off. Considering that he'd been up from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. the next day, he never saw who was sitting next to him when he face-planted onto the couch. Ni-chan. Izuku looked up and saw Eri was sitting next to him in her pink princess PJs, having a bowl in her hands. Oh, hi Eri. What are you doing? Izuku asked tiredly. Watching TV with Mama. Eri answered. Oh, and where's Mom? Izuku asked, still tired that he never saw who just came into the room and loom over him. Oh, she's here, right next to you. Eri said. Oh, wait, what? Izuku shouted before slowly turning to his right and saw his mom in her gown looking at him. Morning Izuku. Inko said. Hi mom. Izuku greeted his mom nervously. Where were you all night? Inko asked with a sweet smile on her face, which made Izuku start to sweat. I was with my friends. Izuku. Oh, and who are these friends for yours? Inko asked as Izuku pointed behind her and made her turn to see the girls were sitting either on the other couch or on the floor to rest. The girls were watching this and didn't say anything due to fear of Inko's sweet smile. Guys, this is my mom and my little sister, Eri. Izuku introduced his family to his friends. Mom, Eri Yamato. These are my friends. Kara Danvers, Karen Beecher, Jessica Cruz, Zatana Zatara, Barbara Gordon and Diana Prince. Izuku introduced his friends to his family. Hello ma'am. Hi Mrs. Midoriya. Greetings ma'am. Morning mama. Hi. Hello. Jessica, Zatana, Diana, Barbara, Kara and Karen greeted Izuku's mom respectfully as Inko just looked at them and said nothing. Mom, are you okay? Izuku asked, worried that his mom was mad that he brought his friends to his home without telling her, but. Oh, my baby brought home friends. And they're girls too. Inko said as tears came out of her eyes. Mom. Izuku yelled, surprised at the amount of tears coming out of his mother's eyes. After having Inko down and her making the teens breakfast, they sat down and watched the news, which was running the events and story about them. And after a titanic battle, the teenage heroes and the preteen Lena Luthor. Metropolis was saved. Thanks to young heroes. But the question remains, who are the young teenage heroes? The news anchor said before Kara changing the channel and put on cartoons for Eri. It's strong to believe this. Karen said with a smile. I know. First time as a team and we're already on the news. Not bad for rookies. Z said while brushing her hair and ate a piece of her toast. Yeah. It's neat, but I feel like we're missing something. Jess said. I know what. A name. Barbara said. But what should we call ourselves? Izuku asked. How about Teen Titans? Kara suggested. Taken. Babs pointed out. Okay, how about the Avengers? Jess proposed. Also Taken and Rom Company. The red hair explained. What? Izuku asked Barbara. Nothing. Barbara yelled, noticing her near slip-up. Freedom Fighters. The Amazon suggested. Also Taken, and we're not rebels. Barbara said. Hey Eri. What do you think we should call ourselves, sweetheart? Kara asked the little girl. Eri thought about it until she remembered what the news anchor said on the news. How about, Young Justice? Eri asked. The teens looked. Is it a bad name? Eri asked. No, it isn't a motto. It's perfect. Izuku said as he pats Eri's head, much to the girl's enjoyment. It was at this moment that the new team, Young Justice, was born, and a lot has happened in just the span of 2 days. But no one ever said that the road in becoming a hero was ever easy. Izuku knew that for a fact. He smiled at the fact that now he had a team to teach on how to be heroes just like in Japan, but he had new friends to count on. Sure, he was far from home, but with his family and new friends with him. He felt like he was right where he belonged. Now that we got that down. Super awesome superhero-ness. Here we come. Barbara said while pulling everyone in for a hug. It had been just a few days after the whole Lena incident and the BRTH of Young Justice. Things have stalled down and our heroes have gone back to their daily lives. Aside from the occasional night patrols and stopping a few incidents with some criminals here and there, but they got that issue dealt with. We now find ourselves in the bedroom of Kara Danvers, aka Supergirl, who was in her bed trying to get some sleep after a night of patrolling Metropolis and also trying to relax as it was Saturday, meaning no school for her. Her sleep, however, was getting interrupted when she started to hear someone knocking on her front door. Stupid super hearing. Kara groaned out as she tried to ignore the knocking and continue sleeping. Eventually, the knocking stopped when she heard the door was opened and she sighed in relief at that. But Kara, one of your friends is here. Mr. Danvers called from downstairs, which caused her to sit up straight. What? Kara said. She got up from her messy bed and made. Who's coming over here at this hour? Kara asks while rubbing her eyes. She was walking towards her bedroom door and was about to open it when it was forcefully opened by none other than Zatana, who was wearing her entertainer's outfit, suit and top hat, and all while carrying 2 cages with 2 white rabbits in them. Hello Kara dear, my pride and joy. Zatana sang while skipping into Kara's room. Pride and Kara said as she rubs her head and closes the door. This is Blackberry Hazel Von Hazel 3 and Dandelion Pipkin de Heisenplay. Zatana introduced the rabbits in the cages. K. Why are they in my room? Kara asked, making Z face her. Hello. We had a whole text thing about you babysitting those 2 cuties last night. Z said as she pulled out her phone and showed the Kryptoian the text convection they had the night before, as Kara's reply was only 1 word after the long text. Whatever. Kara said, saying the same answer she said on the text. Please, Kara. You simply cannot flake on me now. This is my very first paid performance as a solo magician, and I need you to care for my 2 little lovelies while I'm away. Can't you just take them with you? Aren't they, part of your act or something? Kara asked, as she really don't want to spend her day looking after rabbits. Zatana scoffed at Kara's question. These are magical rabbits, my dear. They might be a bit much for a children's birthday party. Now, where can I put them? Z asked as Kara looked around her room for a place for the bunnies. I don't know, put them over there. Kara said, pointed to the floor, which made Z look down and see that dirty state the room was currently in, which made her gasp. On this floor? Ugh. Hold these. Z said as she passes the bunnies to Kara and pulled out her magician's wand and started to use her magic in cleaning the room. Now, there are only a few simple rules to bear in mind. First, they must be given only organic vegetables, cut into segments of no larger than an inch cubed. And I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to limit the cruciferous vegetables, as little Blackberry Hazel Von Hazel 3 has had some issues with stomach discomfort recently. Then of course, they'll need access to fresh water at all times, no cooler than 57 degrees Fahrenheit, that's around 13.5 degrees Celsius. Ooh, and very important, when it's time for their brushing, Z was explaining the rules on taking care of Blackberry Hazel Von Hazel 3 and Dandelion Pipkin de Heisenplay, which started to make Kara have a headache already. How long are you gonna be gone? Kara asked, cutting Z off on her rules. No more than an hour. Z said before she saw a poster on some rock band on Kara's wall before she changed it to one of her. And yet you're like giving me a list on taking care of these two for a month. Kara said, which Z ignored. Now, as to the brushings. 3 strokes gently to the left, then 5 strokes gently to the right. Z said as she continued to list the rules and instructions on caring for her bunnies. Yeah, I got it. Shouldn't you be going now? Kara asked, making Z realize that she'll run late if she doesn't go now. Oh right. I can't be late for my gig. Oh wait, there is one more rule. Z said, making Kara groan in annoyance from the rules. Dude. Kara said, not wanting to hear more stupid rules. This is the most important rule of all. You're not, under any circumstances, to put these two together. Do you understand? Z asked, with a serious tone and expression on her face as Kara looked at Dandelion Pipkin, bunny in the right cage, and then to Blackberry Hazel, bunny in the left cage, before turning back to Z. What if? Kara simply said. Thank you, Kara. Mummy's gonna miss you lovelies. See you soon. Bye Z said, going back to her usually self as she left the room and the house to go to her gig. Kara, using her super hearing X-ray vision to see that Z was not coming back, she looked down to the 2 bunnies and did a complete 180 in personality. She placed the cages down to the clean floor and started to coo at the cute bunnies. Who's the cutest little bunny oneies of all bunny oneies? It's you, isn't it? Yes. Oh, are you the sweetest little magical bunnies? Are you? Are you the sweetest and magicaliest? I think so. Yes, I do. Kara said to the bunnies, which made them squeak in happiness. What were your stupid names again? Ah, who cares? You look like a Merlin, Kara said while pointing to Blackberry Hazel, now renamed Merlin. And you look like a hairy Houdini. Kara said, pointing towards Dandelion Pipkin, now renamed Houdini. Do you like those names? Yes. Ah, you're so cute. Come here, Merlin. Kara said as she opens the Merlin's cage and started to play with him. Oh, Merlin's a squishy little wolf bunny. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Now you, hairy Houdini. I'm drowning in cuteness. Kara said as she started to play with both bunnies before an idea. Now for a selfie for only us to see. Kara said as she took her phone the nightstand and started to take various selfies with the bunnies. She was so indulged in the selfies that she didn't hear the door open behind her. A voice said from behind her, causing her to freeze in place. Kara slowly turned around to her next-door neighbor Izuku, wearing a green t-shirt with a blue short-sleeve hoodie over it, black shorts and his red sneakers with his backpack on. Looking at the scene before him. The two didn't say anything as they didn't know what to say, but fortunately someone else did. Kara sweetie, I let Izuku in and showed him to your room. I hope that's alright with you. They heard Mrs. Danvers said from downstairs. You saw nothing. Kara said slowly, narrowing her eyes at the green-haired boy while her eyes glowed red. Saw what? Izuku said nervously, knowing that his life was now in danger. Good boy. Kara smirked while still holding the bunnies in her arms. So, what ya doin' here, Greenie? Kara asked, wondering why was Izuku doing here. Oh, Z asked me if I was available today in helping you take care for her bunnies. So I said yes. Izuku explained and Ever took out his phone and showed Kara the same long text conversation he had with Z the night before with him agreeing to help out. Okay. Kara said as she went back to playing with the bunnies. Are you sure you should be playing with them while they're outside their cages? Izuku asked. What are you talking about? Kara asked, narrowing her eyes while Houdini was nuzzling onto her cheek. Izuku started to scroll through his phone, looking for something until he found it. Z said that we shouldn't let Blackberry Hazel Vaughn Hazel 3 and Dandelion Pipkin de Heisenplay out of their cages and put them together. I mean, they're too close together. They're Zatana's pets and they're magic, aren't they? Who knows what would happen if they touched each other? Have you seen what happened in that really old movie called Gremlins? Izuku asked as Kara looked at him for a bit before she began to laugh at his face to the point she was rolling on the ground. Kara continued to laugh for a good minute until she stopped for air. Are you for real, Greenie? You're comparing these fluffy wuffy cuties to one of those old movie monsters. I knew you were a nerd, but I didn't take you for a pop culture classic fanboy. Kara said as she wipes the tears from her eyes. I'm sorry if I'm cautious, but we need to put them back into their cages. Izuku said as he took the bunnies from Kara and placed them into the cages again. Kara looked and saw that the bunnies were trying to reach each other but couldn't it due to being far away from each other and locked in a cage. They then turned to Kara and gave her. Do you see that they wanted to hold each other? I can see, but I have to follow Z's rules. Izuku said, not falling for the cute eyes technique as Eri did it to him earlier. Kara didn't listen to him and started to reach for the cages. She was about to open one when Izuku slapped her hand away. Kara, no. Izuku said, not letting her open the cages. Kara snarled at him and went with her free hand to go and unlock the cages when Izuku slapped it. Kara. Izuku stately said. Do that again, and I'll hurt you. Kara said. She went of the cages again when again, Izuku slapped her hand away, this time with OFA behind it. Oh, so you want to do this the strong way? Okay, let's do this the strong way then. Kara said as she tackled Izuku to the ground and the two started to roll on the wooden floor. During their rolling, they accidentally knocked into the bunnies' cages and let the locks loose a bit. Izuku tried to fight back against the female Kryptonian as best he could, but due to her psychic, it was making it difficult for him as he struggled to find a good handhold to push her off him and retaliate. Deciding to take the risk, he shot his hand forward in hopes to grab said handhold, but when Kara moved at the moment Izuku shot his hand onto her body. He grabbed something else which made Kara freeze and Izuku to feel something soft yet firm at the same time. The two slowly looked to where Izuku grabbed and saw that Izuku had accidentally grabbed her right BRST. The shy boy was on the verge of a heart attack as he saw what he grabbed, but being a warm-blooded male, Izuku could not help but admire how soft and firm Kara's BRST was. Acting on primal instinct, Izuku clenched his hand and gave the blonde's bosom a firm grope. But soon, his mind caught up as to what he was doing and he jumped off the blonde and hit his back against the wall. I'm sorry. Izuku yelled, fearing for what was about to happen to him as he started to see his life flash in front of his eyes. Kara got up and glared at Izuku with glowing red narrow eyes as she made her way to him. I hope you enjoyed that. 'Cause that'll be the last thing you'll ever feel once I'm done with you. Kara yelled as she threw a punch to Izuku, who dodged the punch, but that made Kara even more angry as she continued to throw punches to Izuku, who continued to avoid them as best he could while also run away from her. Unknown by an angry Kara and a frightened Izuku, during the scuffle and chase. The two never noticed the two bunnies leave their cages and embraced each other in a tight hug, which in that moment, the two gave off a strange pink light which caught the two teens' attention. Ha! See? Nothing bad happened. They just wanted to hug. Now, where were we? Kara asked as she reeled a fist, ready to punch the daylights out of Izuku when Izuku saw another bright pink. Kara, wait! Izuku yelled, trying to get a few more seconds for life. What? Kara said, not wanting to give the boy any more time at life. Won't there only two bunnies before? Izuku asked while pointing to the bunnies. The two saw that Merlin and Harry Houdini were still hugging each other, but now three little bunnies were beside them. Oh my gosh! Harry Houdini! You're a mom! Kara screamed, forgetting about Izuku for a moment, kneeled down to the bunnies for a better look. I never knew I needed this in my life. Kara cooed, happy to see more cuteness. However, right before the teens' eyes, the 5 bunnies multiplied to 15, then to 30, then to 60, 120, 240, 480 and so on. Both Izuku's and Kara's eyes wide as the phrase, multiplying like bunnies, was literally happening before them in the literal way possible. The room was getting filled by the bunnies, which knocked Izuku back to his senses. He grabbed Kara by her wrist and grabbed his backpack, and the two jumped out of her room and launched to the roof of her house. They watched below as the baby bunnies were sprouting out of Kara's room via her opened window and onto the streets of Metropolis. Don't think this is over, Greenie, Kara said as she flew back into her room in search of her hero outfit. Izuku gulped and reached into his backpack and took out his hero outfit. Izuku, now in his hero outfit, could only gulp as he hopped from rooftop to rooftop. He knew that this was partly his fault, but Kara should just have listened to the rules he left of them and not make things difficult. Time to take out the adorable trash, Kara said as she flew ahead of the bunny tsunami and land on the street. Halt! Kara ordered as if she was talking to a pack of dogs. The bunnies just passed and flowed around her like a rock in a stream. Why did I think that'd work? Kara said to no one but herself as she blew on one of her loose hair strand before taking off into the air to catch up to Izuku, who was busy trying to get. What's the rush, Greenie? Kara asked. Kara, look, Izuku said as he points to something ahead on the street. Kara looks to where he's pointing and sees a bridge that led to the city. They're heading to the bridge that leads to Midtown. If they get past the bridge, Izuku said as Kara started to think on what could that mean and soon got the idea. They'll overrun the whole city. We have to stop them. Right. Izuku shouted as he jumps high in the air and placed his right arm in front of him while using his left arm as a support, as he had his ring finger and thumb in a flicking position as the outside layer of his glove across his wrist jolted forward. Delaware smash, Air Force. Izuku mentally yells with a flick of his finger and shoot out an air bullet to one of the arc beams for the bridge and makes it fall. It falls until Kara catches it and lays it onto the road and using it to block the path to the bridge and redirects the bunny wave. Sorry rabbits, but this road's closed, Kara said as she floats down and sits on the arc beam. She and Izuku noticed that the bunnies were still going to the another part of the city thanks to their attempt to stop them from reaching Midtown. Oh come on, Kara yells. How are we supposed to stop them now? Izuku asks. I don't know, Kara yelled back to him. The two didn't see a large wave of bunnies was heading and hits the two. It carried them to a park which ironically, was the same park where a certain magician was performing. Inside the park, Zatana was performing in front of a group of kids, with one of them was on stage with her in a chair. Now, Tommy, let's see what's behind your ear. Zatana built up, reaching behind the boy's ear and only to pull a white little bunny from him. Huh. Zatana uttered, confused as to why she pulled out a bunny instead for thr boy's quarter. That's not my quarter. The boy said only to get interrupted when the girl in the audience turned to her left after hearing something in the distance and said, "Bunnies." The girl cries out, causing everyone to turn to their left just as a wave of bunnies wash over them and filled the park with them in seconds. Zatana, Kara and Izuku resurfaced from the water line as it was. The magician gave a deep frown to the two. Hi Z. Izuku awkwardly greeted. "How's it going?" Kara asked nervously. The two knew fully well that Zatana was getting angry. "I told you two to keep them apart." "I accepted this from Kara but you Izuku." Zatana yelled, feeling disappointed at the two. "Okay, first off. I don't like how you assumed that I was going to screw up." Kara started. "Second of all, this was just a big accident. Right Greenie?" Kara. "Right, it was a teetotal accident. Most of this is my fault." "I'm sorry." Izuku said as Z sighs that this while Kara was confused at why did Izuku say that it was his fault. "How could you let this happen?" Zatana asks with Izuku blushing under his mask and Kara having a small blush on her cheeks as they remembered what was the cause that made the bunnies get out of their cages. "I rather not talk about it." Izuku stuttered, not wanting Zatana about that. "How do we stop this?" Kara asked, seeing the level of the bunny water was rising. "Whoa, who are you two?" Tommy asked, seeing Izuku and Kara. "Oh, they are, Zatana begun as she tried to think of something to call her friends but couldn't think of anything until Izuku thought of one. "Are Deku and Supergirl. The superhero assistants of the amazing Zatana." Izuku said, as a way to keep the kids entertained. Yes. They are. And they'll be helping me make those little rabbits disappear." Zatana said as she took off her top hat and picked up one of the bunny and tosses it into the hat and makes it disappear. Supergirl begun to pick up a bunch of the bunnies and tossed them into Zatana's hat while Izuku zoomed through the bunnies and sent a few kicks and swings and an air force behind them, making the bunnies soar through the hat as Z held her hat and let the hat swallow the bunnies up. Within seconds, the three held cleared up the park of bunnies. "Tada!" Zatana said as the four children clapped. "The green bunny-looking guy is cool and Superman's sister is the best." Tommy yelled, excitedly from Izuku and Kara's display in powers. Which made Kara a bit mad from the Superman comment. "Listen kid, Kara started but was cut off when they started rumbling which caused the city to shake." "Wait, did you two see the parent bunnies in that heap?" Izuku asked, making the two girls to look around for them before they all felt something was coming. "Oh no." Zatana said right before the bunny wave hit the park and carried all of them away. The streets of Metropolis were filled with the bunnies as various items like benches, cars and tables were floating above the water level. Kara shot out from below the surface and struggled to stay afloat. "I'm drowning in cuteness," Kara yelled, trying to stay afloat above the bunny water. "I gave you two one rule," Z yelled, as she floated to the surface. "Nope, you gave us 500 rules," Kara yelled back as Z turned to Izuku. "And you two broke the only one that truly mattered," Z yelled as she turned to Izuku who just appeared from below the bunny water. "I thought I could count on you but I guess I was wrong," Z said as she turned away from him with a frown on her face. "I'm sorry, I got careless and didn't pay attention," Izuku said, feeling bad from the fact he let Zatana down and feel the pain of getting crushed by the bunnies. Kara was listening to the conversation and wonder why didn't Izuku just tell Zatana that this whole thing was her fault and he was trying to stop her. But, there he was, taking the heat of the mess she made. Having heard enough of Z tearing into Izuku, she swam to them and faced Z. "Look, Z. Give him some slack, right? I was the one who wanted Merlin and Harry Houdini out and hug each other. Izuku was trying to stop me and I made things difficult of him. So, if you want to blame someone, Blame me. Kara said. This, however, sparked a different subject of agreement from the magician. Excuses me. How dare you? Those rabbits are purebred magical creatures with carefully selected names. They are not to be mentioned in the same breath as Merlin and Harry Houdini. Z yelled. My names are way better. Kara yelled back as Izuku floated in between them and pushed them away from one another. Girls, enough. Izuku shouted, finally having of this fighting, and made the girls stop their yelling. Can we please just stop this madness before we all die from cuteness? Izuku yelled before sinking into the bunny wave. Zatana begun to think on the situation. This all started with love and magic, right? So, the only way to end this is to. The only way to stop magical rabbits. Z started as she dove into the bunnies and with a flash of purple under the bunnies. Z floated back out of the bunnies and was holding Izuku in her arms as she was now in her hero outfit. Is with magic itself. She said as she flew to a rooftop and placed Izuku on it. Since the cause of all this is the love between Blackberry Hazel Von Hazel 3 and Dandelion Pipkin de Heisenplay, Z started but was interrupted when Merlin and Harry Houdini. Kara said as she floated past the two. Then I will simply have to cast a hate spell to drive them apart. Z said as she floated into the air and magic energy started to form around her. Leaf ton stibber evol caps I. Z chanted out her spell which engulfed the bunnies in a wave of magical energy. The high level of bunnies started to decrease and retracted as everyone was now free from the bunny water. But their moment of calmness was short-cut when rumbling started to happen as the bunnies started to gather and assemble onto each other. Their eyes glow bright red and they formed into a giant monstrous bunny monster. It opened its large eyes and let out a monstrous roar which scared the civilians and made everyone to take a step back. Roar. I may have worded that spell wrong. Zatana said, feeling slight fear creeping into her after seeing what her pet rabbits had turned into the giant monster. I couldn't handle them when they were a million tiny bunnies, but one giant monster, and no problem. Kara yelled as she took off into the air and straight to the bunny monster. Supergirl, wait. Ah, I hate it when she does that. Izuku groaned as he jumped after her. He thought that she could at least plan ahead before jumping into action. He hoped that she doesn't just killed from this and also hopes that she doesn't kill him for the BRST grope from earlier. Kara flew towards the bunny monster's chest and was about to devilry a punch to it when it suddenly opened up and allowed Kara to flew right through the hole. Kara turned around and watched as the hole morphed back to normal. Let me punch you, Kara said as she continued to try and punch the monster, but she was caught mid-air with its hand. It brought her to its mouth and opened it. Kara realized that it wanted to eat her. It let her go and Kara started to fall to the open mouth. Supergirl. Izuku yelled as he jumped from a rooftop that was nearby and rushed to Kara. He pushes her out of the way, but he fell into the mouth of the monster and getting eaten by it. Deku. Both girls yelled after their teammate sacrifice himself to save Kara and get eaten. Run, children, run. Z instructed the citizens and children as they ran away. Z turned around and got angry before she started to gather her magic to her hands. This is not how I raised you. Z yelled as she threw a few magic blasts to the monster. I thought you were cute. Kara yelled as she flew and delivered a barrage of punches to the monster, but even with the efforts of both of their attacks, the bunny monster just either grew back the parts that were blown off or shot off or just morphed holes to allow the attacks to pass through it. The monster let out a roar, but it cuts itself short when it felt something was going on within it. The girls regrouped onto the road below as they watched the monster clutch its chest if it was having a heart attack. Before they could do anything, a familiar voice shouted out. Detroit, smash! And the monster's chest exploded outwards, like something from a sci-fi movie. Izuku, whose costume had tears here and there, came right out of it holding Merlin and Harry Houdini in his arm as he tucked and rolled onto the road and stopped right at the feet of Kara and Z. "Deku, you're alive!" Kara and Z yelled, happy to see that their friend was still alive. But their happy moment was cut short when they hear the rabbit monster was still standing and was gathered the bunnies that exploded off it when Izuku busted out. "Hurry! You've got to separate them!" Z yelled with Izuku nodding at her. "Sorry guys, but you have to experience something called tough love," Izuku said as he got a good grip on the bunnies and started to push them. Just as the rabbit monster was about to strike again, Izuku, with the use of One for All, pulled the two magical rabbit away from each other, breaking their embrace and making the rabbit monster to explode into a dust of glitter. Izuku got up and let out a sigh of relief now that the bunny mayhem is over. He felt two bodies launch onto him and he saw Z and Kara hugging him. They saw the citizens were watching them and Z felt that there was one thing felt to do. "Tada!" Zatana said as the citizens cheered as the three took a bow. Young Justice had saved the day in Z's first performance. Back at the Danvers household, Izuku placed the two magical bunnies back into their respective cages as he sits down onto a chair in Kara's room. Now, the two are locked away. Never shall the twain meet again. I'll go and get you guys something to eat. Think of it as my apology for yelling at you two, especially you Izuku. Z said as she leaves the room. Kara got up and walked to Izuku's side. "Arms out," Kara said, which confused Izuku. "Huh?" Izuku uttered as he watched Kara take out a roll of bandages and disinfectant cream. "For your bites. You don't want them to get infected or get rabies, do you?" Kara asked, making Izuku to look at his arms and saw that he had a few bite marks here and there. "No," Izuku said, seeing the logic she was saying. He then felt a punch on his right shoulder. "That was for, you know," Kara said, with a small dash of pink on her cheeks. "Why yeah," Izuku said as he rubs his shoulder. He then felt something on his cheek. "And that was for saving me. Tell anyone about that and I'll send you into outer space. Got it?" "And noted," Izuku squeaked out, knowing what the Kryptonian could actually do. But he smiled a bit as she started to apply the disinfectant cream onto his bite marks. "Maybe she's as bad as I thought she was." At Metropolis High School, it was the homecoming game between the Metropolis Hamsters versus the Coast City Sharks. A beam of green light comes hailing down from space, landing right behind the school. As a flash of green light goes off, out walking from the flash was Jessica Cruz and another person, as both had just got off a training session just outside Earth's orbit. As the two walked from the back of the school and to the football field to prepare for the game, they were discussing an issue that rose during the training session. "Kilowog's right, you know. You're gonna have to hit someone one day." A young man, 17 years of age, says to Jessica. He had champagne brown hair in a cow-lick style, emerald green eyes, wearing a long-sleeve raglan t-shirt with the main part of the shirt being white while the collar and sleeve were green. He had on dark gray jeans and gray Converse sneakers. And he had a green ring on his right wedding ring finger. His name was Harold Hal Jordan, the first Earthling to be chosen to join the Green Lantern CRP. It still doesn't make any else easy. But I can prove it to you and Kilowog that fighting is never the right answer to solution conflict. Jessica says, her pacifistic lifestyle was really starting to tick off their senior officer, and both he and Hal were trying to make Jess see that fighting is alright, but the Hispanic teen was stubborn in her belief. "You're gonna run into someone who won't hesitate about fighting you, or outright killing you, what will you do then?" Hal asks, raising a very good point. Jessia thinks on this for a moment before turning back to him. "I'll try to talk to them, but if that fails, I'll try and just capture them without hitting them." Jess. Hal sighs, he really couldn't get through this girl. His attention gets occupied when he spots the coach talking to a few other players. "Oh, I got to go. Looks like the teams has a talk on the game. I'll be back. Hal says, running to the other side of the field as Jess just rolls her eyes. She was about to leave when she hears someone call to her. Jessica. Hey. Jessica turns around and sees her fellow teammate and friend, Izuku, run to her. Oh, hola Izuku, what's up? Jessica asks the Japanese boy as he reaches her. Hey Jessica, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. What's up with you? Izuku asks with Jess letting out a long sigh. I'm just stressed about some stuff, that's all. Jess says. On what? Izuku asks. Jess looks around to see if anyone was around them and saw no one was around to hear them talk. Some Green Lantern stuff. Jess whispers. Oh, I see. Izuku says while nodding, understanding her own problem as a space cop. So, what brings you here? Did take you as a sports fan. Jessica says while giggling as Izuku just blushes a little and rubs the back of his head. Oh, well I'm here just to watch the game since I've never seen American football before. Izuku says. Jessica nods and was about to say with Hal, who suddenly appears out of nowhere, cuts her off. What? Hal yells in shock as his eyes were wide open. He rushes to Izuku, knocking Jessica over and grabs Izuku by his shoulders. You've never seen a game before. Hal shouts as he shakes Izuku. No, I haven't. Izuku answers, while the sport is still being played to this day in Japan, with the rise of quirks, the sport had dead down in popularity just like other sports there. So, Izuku never did pay any attention to it until now. Why? Hal yells, continuing to shake Izuku. I never had any reason to watch it back home. Izuku says, starting to feel sick. Getting back to her feet, and having seen enough, Jessica walks to Hal and gently pulls him Izuku as the Japanese boy was dizzy as he was walking around while spinning a little. Leave the poor boy alone. At least he's here to watch it today. Jess says. Hal starts thinking on what she said and realizes that she was right. Oh yeah. You're right. And since this is his first game, he gets the pleasure to burn me winning the game of the team in his brain forever. Hal says while striking a pose. Izuku shakes off his dizziness and turns back to them. So, who is the school playing today? Izuku asks. The Coast City Sharks. Jess says with Hal's eyes going wide at the moment for the other team and he falls to the ground. What? Hal yells. It was at that moment that the rival team's bus arrives. Seeing that the bus had arrived, Hal jumps and hides behind Izuku. What's wrong with you? Jess asks, seeing Hal hiding behind Izuku. I didn't know we were playing these guys. Hal says, peeking a little over Izuku's shoulder as he looks at the visiting team. Jessica sees this and starts laughing. Wait, is the fearless Hal Jordan actually afraid of the other team? Jessica asks while laughing. It's not the team that I'm afraid of. Hal says. Then, what is it that you're afraid? Izuku asks, while a little annoyed that this guy, who had gone to space and fought who knows what, was using him as a human shield. He was a little suspicious of his behavior. Hal just points to the bus. Her. Hal says. Jessica and Izuku look back to the bus and see what or who was Hal pointing to. They see a teenage girl who had purplish-black hair that was tied in a large ponytail with a red bow, having pale fair skin, and dark pink eyes. She was wearing a red pleated cheerleading dress, high white knee socks, and red sneakers. Jessica and Izuku were confused at seeing the girl and why was Hal so afraid of her. If anything, she looks innocent and friendly. What? Behind that cheerleader? Jess asks as Hal sticks his head out and shakes it no. No, she is the one I'm afraid of. She's finally tracked me down, my greatest enemy. Hal says. As they talked, the girl turns and notices Hal, who then notices that he was here, hiding behind Izuku. Narrowing her eyes a little bit, the girl sneaks away, unnoticed, to the back of the stands. "So, who is that girl?" Izuku asks, turning around and seeing Hal was in the fetal position, rocking back and forth while hugging his knees. "Her name is Carol Ferris, and trust me man, you do not want to mess with her." "And, who are you?" Hal asks, finally acknowledging Izuku. "Oh, I'm Izukumidoriya, a foreign exchange student from Japan." "Nice to meet you," Izuku says and bows to Ha. "He's one of my friends and stops using him as a human shield." Jess says, pulling Hal away from Izuku. "Hal Jordan, nice to meet you too. Now, you've got to get me out of here." Hal yells. "Oh, stop it you big baby, she doesn't look that dangerous. If anything, she looks harmless." Jess says, right before a bright violet, nearly pink, light illuminates the entire field from behind the stands. The three green-themed heroes turned to the source to the light and were taken back at the sight in front of them. The purplish black-haired girl had her hair down and loose, and she wears her lantern power ring on her right hand. She was now in princess-themed clothing, which included a pink tutu with puffy sleeves and white high collar, along with white elbow-length gloves and matching knee-length socks, and pink high heels. She had a violet ring on her right hand as her body and eyes were emitting a pink aura. "Thought you got rid of me, didn't you Hal Jordan?" The girl asks as Hal hides behind a trash can that was beside him. The girl's eye glow brightly as the pink aura around her flares up. "Well, now you're mine." The girl yells as she sends a heart-shaped blast to where our heroes were standing. Luckily the trio jump away from the blast, dodging it as it explodes on impact with the ground. "You belong to me, Hal Jordan. Show your face Hal Jordan." The girl shouts as she starts shooting a barrage of heart-shaped blasts to the entire field, causing panic among the students and players as everyone ran to seek cover from the barrage. Izuku, Hal and Jess were running away from the blast and saw a popcorn cart in the middle of the field. They run to it and hide behind it. "Okay, who was that really?" Izuku asks. "Was that Carol?" Jessica asks as a blast went over their heads. "Okay, in that form, she's called Star Sapphire and she is super clingy." Hal explains. "We can see that. So, what is she, some evil, cunning, manipulative space princess?" Jess asks. "No. Worse, she's my ex-girlfriend." Hal says, making Izuku and Jessica turn to him. "Wait, what?" the teammates say in shock. Right before either one could say another thing, Star Sapphire shot a blast to the crate, making it explode. Seeing that they were out in the open, the trio started running again to get some cover. "Leave it to you to date a supervillain," Jessica says. "Hey, she wasn't always a villain when I first dated her," Hal says. "Then why is she trying to kill you?" Izuku asks. "It's kind of a complicated story," Hal says. Just then, a conrust blast explodes in front of them, forcing them to run and jump over the creator. "That's it. We need to stop her before she wrecks the entire school," Jessica says as she holds her ring out. "Right behind you," Izuku says, as he goes into her backpack and pulls out his suit. "Ready Hal?" Jess asks her fellow lantern who nods. "I'm always ready," Hal says, lifting his ring in the air. "In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight, let those who worship evil's might, beware our power, Green Lantern's light." The two chant their oath as a green flash goes off, catching Star Sapphire's attention. As the flash fades away, we see Jessica in her green lantern uniform and Izuku in his Deku outfit, but Hal was still in his civilian outfit as his ring did nothing during the flash. "Something wrong with your ring?" Deku asks as Hal just nervously chuckles. He, I swear this has never happened before. Come on you stupid ring. In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight, let those who worship evil's might, beware my power, Green Lantern's light." Hal says the oath again, but just like before, nothing happens. Hal looks at his ring in frustration as to why was it not working now when it was working earlier. Why aren't you working now? You were just fine just a few minutes ago, it's not like I. Hal stopped speaking once he had realized. What's wrong? Izuku asks, seeing Hal had stopped talking. I forgot to charge my ring this morning. Hal says as Jess groans and hits her face with her palm while letting slowly drag down her face. Oh, tiens que estar bromando Jordan. Of all the times you had forgotten to charge your ring, today has to be the worst one yet. Jess yells at Hal's stupidity. Just that, they see Star had appeared before them and sent a massive burn heart blast to them. Izuku grabs Hal and he and Jess dodge the blast. Quick, the locker room. Izuku shouts. He and Jess head to the locker's room with Izuku carrying Hal over his shoulder while Jess was flying above them and uses her ring to make a large shield to act as an umbrella to tank the blasts. Okay, what did you do to her to get her this pissed? Jess asks, turning to Hal. Nothing bad. She's just mad I broke up with her. Hal says which Star Sapphire hears. Worst text ever. Star yells as she sends even more blasts to the trio. You did what? Jess yells as her eyes are wide at what she heard, and she wasn't the only one. Dude, haven't you watched any drama/telenovela or even KTV shows, movies or read a book based on romance? Izuku asks. He knew that was a horrible idea. It's the same thing as leaving a Dear JHN letter, A/N. I did get a breakup over a call once and I only said just one thing, okay. 'Cause 1, I really didn't care about the relationship at all and couldn't be bothered by it, and 2, I was planning on breaking up with her anyway, until she handcuffed me to a table. What? I left a smiley face in it. What do I look like, the Joker? Hal says, trying to defend himself but fails. Izuku looks around and sees the destruction Star's fit was doing to the field. One of them had to stay and fight her. Jess. Can you tell me where the battery charge for your ring is? I'm going to help Hal recharge. Deku yells as. It's in my locker, it's on the 2nd floor, right next to the lab. Just smack the door really strong, it'll open with ease. I'll hold her back. Jess yells as Izuku nods. Okay. And be careful. Deku yells as he runs through the door to the locker room. Leaving Jess to fight against a heartbroken Star Sapphire. Inside the school building, Izuku was using 8% of OFA to blaze through the empty hallways towards Jess's locker of her lantern battery pack. Okay Hal, what is Star Sapphire and why did you even date her? Deku asks Hal, who was still on his shoulder. Look dude, you know us Green Lanterns use willpower to power our rings. Well, Star Sapphire is like us but different. See, her lantern CRP is called the Violet Lanterns and they use love to power their rings. Hal explains. And how did you discover that she was a member of the Violet Lanterns? Izuku says. When I see her go up in a beam of violet light when I moved away from Coast City 6 months ago. Hal says. Why did you date her? Izuku asks. She seemed like a good girl so I asked her out and she was happy when I did. We went out for like 10 months but things started to get weird with her. Hal says, causing one of Izuku's eyebrows to go up. What happened? Izuku asks as he took the stairs to the 2nd floor. So, I was the quarterback of the Sharks when I living in Star City and I was popular in school, so girls would often talk to me but when I was dating Carol, she got super jealous at any girl who stood near me. If one dared talk to me, Carol would freak out and try to rip her hair off. Then, she'd text me every morning with an embrace on it and at night with a good night embrace. At first, it was nice but after 2 weeks of it, it got boring fast. Then, I started noticing she was stalking me when I was alone and away from her. That really creeped me out. She never left me alone so, I made to call it off with her. Hall says. Okay, last question, why did you move and why did you break up with her via text instead of talking to her face to face? Izuku asks. My dad got a job as a test pilot here in Metropolis, so we had to move. That was when I got the idea from my older brother Jack to left her a text saying goodbye and I'll probably never see me again. Hal says as he says what he wrote in the text that led to this happening. Izuku uses his hand to facepalm at how the idea was extremely stupid. Okay, the guy literally left a modern version of a Dear JHN letter, and now the receiver of the letter is back as a woman scorned. I've got to stop watching drama with Mom and Itamo for a while if I survive this. Izuku thought. He spots Jess's locker and rushes to it. He places Hal down and punches the locker door, making it open up and the two sees Jessica's lantern battery pack. Okay, get your ring up and running so we can go and help Jessica with Star. Deku says as Hal nods and go to the locker and points his ring to the battery pack. In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight, let those who worship evil's might, beware my power, Green Lantern's light. Hal chants the oath as green energy flows from the battery and into the ring as a bright green light emits through the hallway. Once the light fades away, Izuku opens his eyes and sees that Hal was still not in his lantern uniform. Nantakata I. Why is it still no good? Izuku yells angrily, this Green Lantern was no good. I don't know. It should be good since it's now charged. Hal yells in a panic state, the two then feel rumbling coming from outside, followed by Star Sapphire yelling which was surprisingly loud enough of the two to hear. You can't run from me Hal Jordan. Love will always find a way. Carol yells as an explosion goes off. HHH and Jess was heard screaming, it sounds like she was caught in the middle of the explosion. Okay, that's it. Fix your ring while I go and help Jess out. Izuku says as he decides to take a different route to the field, he runs and jumps through the window and falls a bit since they were on the second floor. He lands on his feet and immediately activates OFA and rushes back to the battle. The football looked like a smaller version of what Normandy would have looked like during D-Day. It was filled with smoking creators, the stands, burning with the scoreboard laying on the ground, melting away thanks to it being lit by a pink inferno. Jessica was flying around as she was looking worse for wear as she had scratches and bruises on her body while her suit, it's had better days. As she flew, Jess suddenly get hit by a pink blast which sends her slamming into the ground. Groaning in pain, Jess tries to get back up but she gets sent back to the ground by restraints made by Star Sapphire. She looks up and sees Star was floating above her as she was charging a massive construct that was a flaming pink heart. After this, no one will stand in between me and my Hal Jordan you thief. Star yells as Jess just looks at her with confusion on her face. Wait, you think I'm dating Hal? Jess asks. Yes you harlot. Star yells. Jessica doesn't say anything but tries to hold in her laugh but fails to. Bitch, ha 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 ha. Ah, no, no 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 no. No. We are not together, we're not even close to being together. First he using way too much hair products, much than I do. Second, the guy has an ego that makes Jupiter look like a rock in comparison. Third, he's not even my type of guy. Jess was saying but just cut off. Shut up. Once you're gone, Hal Jordan will be mine. Star Sapphire shouts as she throws the Delaware Smash Air Force. A voice yells as 8 blasts of compressed air hits the heart, sending it flying to the other side of the field, and causing it to explode when it is impacted the ground. Jess opens her eyes and sees Izuku was standing next to her as his gloves retract to normal. He goes to her and pulls the restraints off her. Jess. Are you okay? Izuku asks as he pulls the final restraint from her neck. Jess sits up and rubs her neck. I'll be fine, did you get to my locker? Jess asks. Yeah, but Hal's ring is still not working, so I abandoned that mission and headed straight back here to help you out. Looks like I was right to. You. More people standing in my way to Hal Jordan. I'll curse all of you. no one will deny me of my beloved Hal Jordan. Then come get me. Izuku yells, he grabs Jessica and caddies her bride style as he jumps away when a blast hits where he was standing. He runs a bit and heads to the locker room. He places Jessia just outside the locker room door with her back against the wall and he runs out to the field to divert the blasts to him. Izuku was dealing with the barrage as he dodges pink burning heart-tipped arrows and pink blasts with flips and hops, but he does get hit by some of them. While he was dealing with all this, his mind couldn't let what Hal said. Why did he say that about her, and how was the relationship of Carol? He needed answers. Why are you doing this? Izuku yelled, running to the stands. Because I love him. And I must have him. Star yells as she was chasing Deku. But he broke up with you. Izuku yells, this causes him to jump away from another barrage of arrows that was shot by Star. He's just confused about his feeling. I can make him love me again. I will make him love me again. And away from the homewrecker, Star yells as she aims another barrage at Izuku. Izuku hears what she said and stops running as he turns to her. Wait, you mean Green Lantern? Izuku asks as Star Sapphire nods. Yes, her. Once you and her are out of the picture, Hal Jordan will be mine. Star Sapphire yells, taking aim at Izuku with numerous arrows, causing Izuku to back against the burning stands. The Greenlet looks around of any possible solution to this and he saw a magazine on teen love on the ground. It was then he gained an idea. Can you please tell me what were you doing while you were dating Hal that made you love him so much? Izuku asks as he prepares himself of the hit, but he never got it as his question makes Star lose focus on her construct as she starts to floats around and giggling. Sure. While we were dating, we'd go out on dates like walks on the beach, dining at restaurants, go and seeing some movies. Talk and text all night on the phone. I'd send him good night and good morning kisses every day. I'd send him some flowers and other gifts until, that awful day he moved away and left me that text. Do you see why I have to get him back? Star Sapphire yells as Izuku was processing what she said and he only had one thing to say. That sounds awful. Izuku says, shocking Star Sapphire. What? What do you mean it sounds awful? Star Sapphire yells as she starts to glow and charges a massive ball of pink energy to blast Izuku with. Because it is. Look, I'm not an expert on love considering that I've never had a girlfriend in my life, but thanks to a friend of mine back home, I picked up a thing or two on relationships. And from what I can tell from yours is that it wasn't healthy at all. Izuku says, making Star release the energy and she floats down to him. What do you mean? Star asks, now in front of Deku. What I'm saying is that your relationship with Hal was unhealthy at its best. What you think is love, is really an obsession over Hal. Look, you may have started to love at first when you guys started to the first date, but over time, that love was turning into an obsession. You said you texted and called him every night and morning, and that you sent him gifts on the basis. That's not love, it borderline yandere obsession. What else did you do when Hal was alone and not with you? Izuku asks as Star looks away from him. Well, I'd sometimes, mostly spy on him whenever he was alone. Star says as she looks sheepish. And? Izuku asks, thinking that wasn't enough. Star blushes and closes her eyes. And I'd, sometimes, sneak into his room and, take some of his stuff with me. Star says as Izuku sighs. See that? That's not love, you're obsessed over Hal. Trust me, I can tell what his obsession is since I have a girl who was after my BLD and wants to see me get stabbed and hurt as it turned her on for some reason. Izuku says, making Star look at him with a raised eyebrow. You BLD? Star asks, confused on that. Long story, just forget about that. But the point is that you didn't give Hal enough space to himself to grow into the relationship, causing him to move away from you and leaving you that crappy text. Look, no one should go through that, it had to be the worst thing you've gone through, right? Izuku asks as Star floats down until her feet land on the ground as she looks down. Yeah, I did get sad. And depressed when I saw the text. Star says as tears start to build in her eyes. Izuku goes to her and places his hand onto her shoulder and bends down a little to be on eye level with her, making the short girl look up to his masked face. Look, I'm not saying that you should force him to love you again, but what I am trying to say is that you should at least try and talk to him over it. And if he still doesn't love you after that, you shouldn't be sad over it. It happens to all of us and you'll find your love again out there. It's just waiting for you. Izuku says as Star looks at him into his eyes. Do you really think that I can find love again? Star asks. I'm positive that you'll find your love again. That is how we are as humans. Do you have any friends back home? I'm sure they can help you. Izuku asks as Star just rubs her arm. I, sort of don't. I chased anyone who wanted to be my friend, thinking that they were trying to steal Hal away from me. Star says as she looks back down. Izuku felt bad for her as he knew just how it felt not having friends. He then had an idea. Oh, then, can I be your friend? Izuku asks as Carol looks back up at him. Really? You, wanna be my friend? Carol asks in shock as Izuku nods. Yeah, I'll be happy to be your friend. Izuku says as he smiles, but it couldn't be seen due to his mask. Carol couldn't believe it, someone actually wants to be her friend and she didn't think he was lying. Tears start to build up from her eyes as she hugs Izuku and starts crying. Thank you. Thank you. Carol says while hugging him. Izuku at first was stunned by the sudden hug, but after hearing Carol's thanking him and hearing her cry, he loosens up and hugs her back while rubbing her back to soothe her. After a while, the two. Feeling better? Izuku asks as Carol nods while wiping her tears. Yes, thank you. Wait, I never got your name. Carol asks, now realizing that she never got Izuku's name. Knowing that he couldn't tell her his real name, well, not now. He decides to tell her his hero name. Oh, I'm Deku. A hero in training from Japan who here to study and establish a hero school system. Nice to you. Izuku says as he holds his hand out to Carol. Well, I'm Star Sapphire, but you can call me Star. It's nice to meet you too. Carol says as she takes Izuku's held hand and shakes it. Now. What will you do? Izuku asks as Carol looks around. I guess I should head home, seeing that the field's trashed thanks to my, little fit. Carol says as she rubs her head. Izuku looks around and sees the state the field was in and just saw one of the goal posts falls to the ground. Yeah, that might be for the best. Izuku says with a sweat drop, the game was definitely cancelled after this. Well, I guess I see you later then, Deku. Wait, how will I contact you? Carol asks Izuku, who sheepishly chuckles and points to the city, more specifically, the Daily Bugle. Just come visit anytime you want and shoot a pink light up. I'll see it and I'll meet you up top at the Daily Bugle. Izuku says as Carol nods in understanding. She floats up and was about to leave when she turns around and faces Izuku one more time. I'll be back for Hal Jordan and try again, and if I fail, then I'll give up. Bye, Deku. See you later. Carol yells as she files away, over the city's horizon with a pink trail behind her. Izuku lets out a big sigh, seeing that the chaos was finally over. She's gone. Izuku turns around and sees Jessica limp her way to him. She suddenly starts to fall, but thankfully, Izuku was fast enough to catch her. Jess. Are you okay? Izuku asks as he holds Jessica. Yeah, just sore, everywhere. Jessica says with laughing a bit. Yeah, she's gone. She just needed some talking on love, and I think I may or may not have either made things better or worse. Izuku says, not sure if his plan worked or not. Well, nice work. You drove her way. Jessica says. But you did most of the work. If any, you deserve the credit since you had to hold her off without hitting her just so you buy us some time. If anything, you were the real hero today, Jessica. Izuku says as Jessica felt touched by his words. Thanks, Izuku. Jess says as she smiles at Izuku. However, she started to blush also when she felt that her body was pressing against his body and could feel his defiant muscles. She couldn't believe how well built they felt and started to wonder why does he wear clothes that were either baggy or too layered to see them. Ay papi, que cuerpo tan musculoso tienes Izuku. Jessica says in her mother tongue while blushing. Thankful in this moment, Izuku couldn't understand Spanish. Huh? Did you say something, Jessica? Izuku asks. Jessica snaps back to reality when she hears Izuku speak to her. Nothing important. Jessica says while trying and failing to fight her blush back. Hey! Is she gone? The two turn and see Hal was running to them. Yeah, she flew away after we talked. Izuku says, stunning Hal on his words. You, talked to her? Hal asks, in disbelief that they got Carol away, by not hitting her. Yes, he did. See Hal, told you fighting is not always the answer. Jeshia says with a smug tone. Okay. So, what did you say to make her leave? Hal asks as Izuku rubs the back of his head. Well, we got her to leave but we have some things to tell you. Izuku says. Like what? Hal asks. Well, the good news is that you're now safe. Izuku says. And the bad news is that she now knows where you are. Jessica says. Great. Hal says as he facepalms. And to make matters ever worse for him, his rings flashes green and he was now in his lantern outfit. Hal gets his hand off his head to see Izuku's and Jess's bewildered expressions aimed at him. He looks down and sees what he was wearing. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. It had been a week since the Star Sapphire incident and we find ourselves back at Metropolis High with the football field restored back to its glory. Karen was seen, walking on the track to school as she was busy texting Barbara on her phone about something that the two had been working on for the past 2 weeks since they first met and were excited about showing it to the others. She was so indulged in the text that she wasn't aware that something was heading towards her head fast. She gets hit in the side of her head by a football, forcing her to fall to the ground. As Karen rubs the spot where her head was hit, 2 shadows loom over her. Hey, Beeser. Karen stops her rubbing and looks up to the shadows. She sees 2 girls, both of them who look to be a few years older than she was. One of the girls had a very bulky figure, with noticeably big legs and arms. She had large red hair, tied up into a big ponytail, and was wearing a yellow tracksuit with pockets on the chest and thighs, as well as white sneakers. The other girl was skinnier than her friend was. She had short black hair with blue highlights on one side of her head, brown eyes, light pale skin, and wore a black choker on her neck, a full gray-blue bodysuit underneath with a black jacket with diamonds over the bodysuit, along with a short black ripped skirt with 2 diamonds on the skirt. She also wore blue and black boots and has gray piercings. Heads up. The bulky girl warns as she and the other girl laugh at Karen for the hit and fall. Oh hi Doris. Fancy meeting you here while I was taking the longer way to chemistry class. Karen says as she looks down, knowing that she had to deal with this now of all days. The bulky girl, now revealed as Doris crosses her arms over her chest and smirks. Hey, I went to chemistry class once, before I realized it was for nerds and science freaks and I ditched it. So, I know where it is. Doris says as she looks at Karen and sadly, gains an idea. But, tell you what. Why don't we just SCRT you there? Doris asks while looking at her friend who smirks, getting what she was really saying. Karen on the other hand was getting nervous about Doris's suggestion. No, it's fine. Really, I can get myself with no problem. So, you really don't have to do that. Karen says as she tries to get up and walk away, but Doris grabs her sweater and pulls her back to them. Oh no, we insist. You'll never know who's in the halls. Doris says as she and her friend grab Karen by her arms and start dragging her to the locker room. You guys. This isn't actually the science building. This isn't the smarty building. Doris says, in a poor attempt to imitate Karen. She looks back down and narrows her eyes at the short, younger African American. See that Beecher, that's the problem you have. You irritate me, you bug me. You're a tiny little insect that's always around me, annoying me. Doris says as she steps in front of Karen, causing her to back up to the row of lockers beside her. And you know what Doris does to bugs that annoy her. She squashes them. The other bully says as Doris smirks. Yeah, and I think it's time you learn that you shouldn't ever irritate me. Doris says as she grabs Karen by her wrists and starts using her hands to make Karen hit herself in the face. Why are you hitting yourself? Why you hitting yourself? Why you hitting yourself? Doris chants as Karen just took the hits rather easily, since they won't even that strong hits in the first place. Oh okay Doris, very funny. Karen says, but the other bully wasn't as assumed as her. You think that's funny? Maybe you need a little time to yourself to think how comedy really works. The other bully says as Doris stops what she was doing and opens the looker right next to Karen. Yeah. Get in there and think about how, see comedy works. Doris yells although she hesitantly in the middle in repeating what her friend said. She was about to grab Karen to shove her into the locker but Karen stops her. Wait. I can do it myself. Karen says, defeated as she walks into the locker and looks at the two bullies. Smell ya later Beecher. Doris yells as she slams the door shut and she and her friend walk out of the locker room, leaving the poor girl in her prison with no way out. And then I was found by the football team came in to change into her P.E clothes and Hal opened the locker which turned out to be his and he frees me. I then had to go out of the locker room with my eyes closed since most of the boys were not in their shirts or pants yet and I don't want to tell you how many times I had to ask where I was going to get to the door. And I missed my class again because of this. Karen shouts, telling her escape story to Barbara, who was munching on an apple, and Izuku. The three were heading to the junkyard for some after-school training. That's the 5th time this month that Doris shoved me into a locker. I just don't get it. The 5th time of what Karen-san? Izuku asks, not really getting the context of her story. Oh, she's getting bullied at school by a repeat student named Doris. Babs answers as she takes another bite of her apple. She and Karen don't notice Izuku stopping momentarily as he hears this before he snaps out of what was said and resumes walking next to them. Wait, you're getting bullied? Izuku asks, briefly hesitating on his words. Yeah, I am. And I don't know what I did to her to make her bully me. Karen says as Barbara takes another bite of her apple before speaking. Oh, it's quite common really. You see, most people our age tend to get physically, mentally, and emotionally abused by someone for a number of reasons. Most do it either to show power and dems at school, to establish themselves as one of the top dogs at school, some do it for popularity as it rules to them that they have to bully those they think are inferior to them and among other reasons, others do it as some form of payback for something you did to them in the past, some do it as some form of an outlet from their problems at home, or do it as a new yet twisted form of pleasure and entertainment. Lesser-known cases link prejudice as those who are ruled under that have beliefs which mostly just make them target the victims for various reasons such as race, religion, gender identity, and SXL orientation and finally in most common one in this is peer pressure. In most cases, 4 out of the 7 I mentioned tending to profile the bullier as they always target those they think are small and weak in the food chain. Babs says as her words caused Izuku to flinch and stop while Karen just stops and glares at Babs who now realizes what she said and may have offended Karen. She turns around and sees the glare. Sorry, I meant, the small and awesome. Babs says as she nervously chuckles. She then notices Izuku was looking into space as he was out of it. Hey Izuku, are you okay? Babs asks as Karen turns and sees Izuku's state. The greenlet shakes his head and looks around and sees Babs and Karen were looking at him. Why yeah. I'm fine. Just thinking about something for later. Ha ha ha. Izuku nervously laughs while rubbing the back of his head. Karen sighs as they resume walking. Look Babs, you might think being small is fun but trust me, it's not. It makes you more vulnerable to others and makes you invisible to the world. It sucks being small. Karen says while looking down to the sidewalk, unaware that Izuku was looking at her with rather a familiar expression. But really Karen, couldn't go to a teacher and report this? Barbara asks as Karen just shakes her head. I've already tired. The PE teacher loves her since Doris is the school's girls' football team captain, which makes her untouchable. The only way she could get into trouble is if she was failing a class and getting kicked out of the team. The only way I can really get her to stop bullying me is by being bigger than her, and after today, I think I can do that with ease. Karen says as she tugs onto her backpack, which Izuku knew what she was thinking about. Karen, I know that you want to get back at her, but trust me. It won't end well at all, especially if you use your suit, it would just make you behave just like her. The best thing for you to make her stop is to try and be better than her, not to get due to her level, just by being yourself and standing up to her. As you. Izuku says. Karen looks at him and felt that he was right, but there was still doubt in her mind about what would happen if she does that. Okay. Karen says, not sounding too confident. Great. Now come on. We got to get to the junkyard if we want to show the others your new and improved armor. Babs yells as she grabs Izuku's and Karen's wrists and starts to drag them to the junkyard quicker. Somewhere else in the city. In one of the suburbs of Metropolis at a 2-story house, Doris was seen, in her garage, doing her afternoon workout, which was involving her doing a bench press set with a few weights. Next to her on a box were a white water bottle and her laptop, and she was currently having a Skype call with her friend from earlier while rock music was playing in the background. You need some new material, Doris. Why not change? Why are you hitting yourself? To quit hitting yourself, dweeb. The friend says as she laughs a bit. The two were discussing their bullying tactics and coming up with new ways to torment Karen. Doris scoffs at the suggestion. Whatever, it's a classic and works every time. Doris says as she tries to do one more rep, but she was starting to struggle from the weights as her arms were shaking as she tries to get the weight set onto the bench's bar catchers, but the bar slips out of her hands, causing the heavy equipment to land on her midsection, which causes the bench to break. Ha 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 ha. Wow, a meathead falling on her, but after she couldn't do her last rep. Now that's classic. Leslie laughs at the irony of Doris's accident. Doris sits up and glares at the screen while her cheeks had small dust of pink. Shut it, Leslie. Doris yells as she slams her laptop shut, ending the call. She then notices two people in lab coats were standing in front of her, both wearing large frame glasses and both looked a bit, how do I say this nicely, nerdy. They were Mr. and Mrs. Zul, Doris's parents. Ah, ever heard of knocking dweebs? Doris asks in a rude tone. Sweetie, Daddy and I are leaving now for the annual science conference, okay? Mrs. says while adjusting her glasses. Doris on the other hand simply rolls her eyes. Fine. Whatever. Not like I care for your nerd FES. Doris. Have fun with your sporting activities, sweetie. Love you. Doris's mother says as she and her husband walk over to their car and drive off. Doris, who really didn't care about their stupid plans, looks back to the broke equipment and thought what happened that caused her to struggle like that, since it's never happened before. She flexes her bicep and notices that it wasn't growing at all. In fact, her biceps looked smaller in comparison to how it was last week. Man, I seriously gotta pump back up. But how? Doris asks as she starts to think. She knew that working out was out of the option since it would take time and she wanted results fast. She looks around and notices that her parents' lab door was unlocked and she smirks as an idea pops into her mind. She goes into the lab and looks around for something that could help speed her muscle growth faster. She walks around a bit until she spots something at the back of the room and sees a row of 4 sealed test tubes, containing an orange liquid in each one. Doris takes one of the tubes and picks up one of her parents' jet injectors from a shelf right before placing the test tube into the slot of the injector and screws the tube in tightly and sees the liquid flow into the gun. Yeah, this will seriously make me diesel in no time. Doris says as she points the injector into her left arm and pulls the trigger, making the liquid shoot right into her BLD vines. Totally unaware that the liquid started to glow and that it was flowing throughout her body at an alarming rate as she grins and leaves the room. Metropolis Junkyard. Young Justice were at their hidden spot in the city junkyard, busy training and coming up with some new moves. Izuku and Diana were busily sparring in hand-to-hand combat, well more like Diana trying to teach Izuku her fighting style since she noticed him doing some moves involving his legs which were powerful but looked stiff while doing so, and when he just fights with his hands, it looked like he was just punching instead for actually attacking an opponent. Kara was at the side, busy punching a block of cement in one concentrated area. This was helping her learn to control her strength and learn what amount of her strength should she put into her attacks. Z was busy at the other side, reading one of her books, learning new spells in case a situation called for one of them, and Jessica was in the air, floating as she was busy making a rage of light constructs. After her encounter with Star Sapphire, Jess learned that Star was faster and more creative than her in terms of making light construct, and she was in need of training herself to improve her speed. As they were still doing their training, Barbara walks toward them in her costume. "Hey, guys. Can you come over here? I got to show you all something cool." Babs says as the others stop doing what they were doing to turn to her. "What is it, Barbara Gordon?" Diana asks. "Just something really cool. Come on." Babs yells as she leads them to a wall of stacked cars as she clears her throat. "Now, ladies and Izuku. Introducing, the new and improved Bumblebee." Barbara yells as she then starts to mock a trumpet as Karen shyly walks out from the cars, now wearing her new and improved version of her suit. It was now a custom-made Bumblebee-like battle armor with yellow and brown parts, and she had a slicker version of her helmet which now included a green visor. The suit also had blue wings and was slicker and firm than the previous design. "So, what do you think about my new battle armor?" Karen asks as the others start clapping. "Karen, that suit looks divine." Z says as she claps her hands together, impressed by the suit's design, given how its predecessor looked. "Yeah, you look awesome." Jess says with a smile. "That armor is befitting that of a true Amazon warrior." Diana says, proudly. "Looking good, kid." Kara says with her thumb up. "That suit looks amazing, Karen-san, it really brings out your creative side." Izuku says as he slides his mask and mouth guard off to show off his bright smile. Karen blushes at the praises she was receiving and felt proud of her achievement. "Thank you guys," Karen says while rubbing her arm. "So, what does this new gear do?" Kara asks as Karen looks down at the suit. "Well, we added those thin-filmed fold-tape modules that I got from home. They add a more reinforced armor to what I previously had and are solar panels which act as the suit's main power source." Karen explains with the suit changing color schemes for a brief moment. "And they look like the stripes of a bee." Barbara yells, jumping in place as Karen clears her throat as she turns around to show off the new wings. "I modified and changed the material of the wings, they're now carbon fiber and they add a duller tone to the buzzing noise. I would have taken the buzzing away but I kind of like the buzzing now," Karen says as the wings start to flap, causing a low-tone buzz as they do so. "Just like a bee." Babs yells as Karen just rolls her eyes. "And we're working on quartz prisms in my gauntlets that will fire electrified stingers from them." Karen says as one of her gauntlets transforms into a stringer which gives off a little electric pulse. Like how a cute little bee would sting someone. Barbara says as Karen gave her a dry look before turning to the others. And I fixed the one big issue I've been having, which leads me to the biggest upgrade yet. My growth tech. Karen declares as Barbara couldn't hold it in anymore as she starts to do a poor imitation of a drum roll as everyone watched on with interest in what could be a big change to the team's dynamic. Okay, here goes. Karen thought as she opens up her gauntlet's control panel and presses a button flies up and started to give off a soft golden glow as she starts to grow in size. Everyone was excited on this new development, up until Karen suddenly stopped growing and instead shrunk down to the size of a bee, as she could do originally. Everyone was shocked at this and couldn't think of what to say next. Nice one Karen. Jess says as she was thinking about telling the African-American girl the truth but someone beat her to it. Yeah, you shrunk, differently. Kara says, when Karen hears her, she opens her eyes and sees that the world was bigger than her and looks at herself. Seeing that she shrunk down to what she was. Oh come on. I thought we finally fixed the growth tech. Karen shouts in frustration as she flies down and lands on Z's index finger as she and the others look down at her with concern. If it makes you feel any better, you're so cute when you're small. Z says, in an attempt to cheer the short, and currently small, girl up. But I don't want to be cute. I want to be big, strong, and intimidating like you guys. How am I going to do that when? Karen says as she flies off Z's finger and returns back to her original size. I'm just small as a bug. Karen sighs, while taking off her helmet. Babs then walks up to her and pats her back. It's okay. I think we messed up with we inverted the zeta thingy when we had to crosswire that other thingy cause we ran out of those thingies. All we have to do now is just go and find the one thingy that we need and pitch it into the motherboard and I bet that'll solve this, no problem. Babs says as she was trying to comfort her friend. Yeah, maybe that's the issue. If we can fix that, then I'm sure I can grow to be big. Karen says as she starts to feel a bit better. Then it is settled. Let us procure the correct thingies. Diana says as she walks up to that duo and places her hand onto Karen's shoulder. A quick trip to the electronics store at the mall and we'll have the whole thing sorted out. Barbara says as Izuku walks up to them. I'll come with you guys. It'll help us better and fast if we go as a group and fix your problem. Izuku says with Karen's cheeks having a small pink dust on them. Z stands up from her seat. Well, as much as I hate to miss a trip to the mall. I can't come with you guys. My dad and I have a show later tonight. Z says as she snaps her fingers and changes from her hero outfit to her normal attire. And I'm going to the show to protest on them using animals in their acts. Jess says as she changes back to her normal attire. Oh cool. We can share a cab on the way there. Z says to Jess who nods before turning to Karen. Hey, I know you'll find what you're looking for Karen. Jess says to Karen with a smile which the girl returns. And what about you Kara? Izuku asks the Kryptonian who just thinks on the idea for a bit before shrugging her shoulders. Guess it wouldn't hurt coming along since I got nothing better to do. Kara says as she gets up and the group went their separate ways. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Pixel's fanbook on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video, till then goodbye.